somewhere.
Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. It's your host, Ken, and another beautiful day here. I am in Durango, Colorado. I'm in that southwest corner of Colorado. I'm on my way down to New Mexico and then Arizona. Got a few cities ahead of me for the JAR podcast, which you just saw. And that was me kind of pontificating back then. What is going to be that common thread as I travel across the country interviewing people? And as I've said on the show before, mental health was a real shocking discovery for me to see how many people struggling with mental health and their journey to find help, to find out what was wrong, to find help, and then to make a better way of it. And so many of those people also took that journey, that struggle with mental health, their own personal struggle, and turned it into a passion. And they've jumped full speed, both feet into the mental health space and trying to do good stuff with it. And, a lot of guests. And that's why I started the JAR Foundation, to see if I could, find some money along the way and help those people who have got those dreams and are getting started. And so it's great today. I've got Sonya and Daniel Weiss, brother and sister, oddly enough, my first brother-sister show, and two different places, but they're here together. And the backstage stuff was interesting, hearing Sonya's story, which so matches the story I just talked about. So it's a real thing. This is one of the spaces that I've seen, very few spaces where people have an experience and then they use that experience to jump into a place to make change. Sonya, Daniel, welcome to the Mental Health Today. Thanks for being guests, carving out time and to share your story, to share what you guys are doing in the mental health space. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit of, I'll put up the little banner, but maybe a little background. What are you doing now? Tell the audience a little bit about who are you now? What are you doing in the mental health space? What's going on in there? What is the company all about?
So it's a fund that invests in startups. And all the startups are doing something new in the brain health or mental health space. We've invested in 20 different companies, and some of them are doing things in psychedelics. Some of them are doing drug development outside the psychedelic world. Some of it is neuromodulation. Brain-computer interfaces, and something that we all like a lot is called precision psychiatry.
And then also precision psychiatry. Okay.
Yes.
So you've invested in, how long have you been doing this? 22 companies is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of places to go meet and to ascertain whether or not you'd want to put your money with them. And if they're doing the right things, the team is, that's a lot. You've been busy.
Yes, we have. We've been trying to meet all the startups that are doing things in the space. A lot of the research institutes, the researchers, other fellow investors, and also we fundraise at the same time. So we're also speaking to people who want to give money to the mental health space.
To mental health.
Venture capital. Yes.
Daniel, are people, I'm going to say kind of a, I know in so many industries where there's going to be investors and there's going to be a real hardcore investor where there are metrics and ROIs and things to hit, and they are looking to get money back. They're in this space because it's providing, 8% per annum. I mean, mental health, are those the same investors coming over on the brain health, the mental health side, or do they have a little bit of a different DNA?
So it's very risky. Not most startups don't work.
Yeah.
So it's a risky proposition. But I think mental health is really big. It affects probably every single person or every single family. And for those who are able to innovate and have like a new solution, a new drug, a new way of treating someone or diagnosing someone, I think there will be returns, and hopefully those winners will compensate for the many losses that we hope we don't have any, but like the theory says, they'll be there.
Sure, especially 22. Not everybody's going to make it.
Yeah, and who's this investor? It's someone who is willing to take a bet, lose the money, but it's someone very passionate about what we're doing. They want to be able to meet the needle and be able to help people. But there's also a bucket of people who, like me, tried psychedelics and were like, "Oh, this is amazing! I want to invest in this." So
this is.
And then there's a few like friends and family who's like, "Hey, I know you. Why not?"
Yeah.
Combination of both.
Sonya, what's going on? What are you doing in this? What are you doing in the company?
So I think it's a small fund, right? I think we divide and conquer.
Yes.
So I think we're both involved, both in the fundraising as well as just reaching out to the general community, and then running due diligence in all the companies and really trying to understand where we think where companies are going to be like either first in class or best in class in whatever they're doing, and we really like to evaluate not just the potential of the technology being developed and the ease of use and just the commercial viability of what it's going to do, as well as the therapeutic impact. We also like to evaluate the management and whether or not we think the management has the bandwidth, the vision, and the skills to actually bring these companies, like actually develop the technology through to commercialization and actually get these things out to people.
Yeah, and that makes sense because again, this is a place where there's a lot of people in this space that are here passionately, maybe not always business people first. I mean, a lot of the ones I met were real business people first, but there's also some that were not so business minded, but they're full of passion and quite often even good ideas. So yeah, I think looking at the management part. Do you have any clients that are the great idea, a great visionary, but you're worried like they need a management team? I mean, you must have like every package out there right now.
Yeah, so we've definitely evaluated companies that, we've invested perhaps in companies where the management was not the best thing at first and they've had to build it out.
Yeah.
And then we've evaluated others where they maybe have an amazing drug or something that's really going to be very impactful if it gets through the FDA trials, if it actually gets through reimbursement and all these things, where we sadly decided not to invest because we didn't think the team had the capability. I think these are very long processes. Like they take many years. They're also very expensive processes. So they really have to be able to navigate a lot of things, fundraise a lot of money, and really sell the idea.
Very complicated, right? Yeah, this is complicated.
So that is a big component, right? We wish we could invest in all the great ideas, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. How do you invest in psychedelics? I mean, because that's, is it going to be a different treatment with it, a different use case? Because there's no, it's natural, right? You can go pick them. You can't get I don't think you can get a patent on the formula unless you do something to it, right? So how do you invest in a psychedelics company?
So I think there's many ways. I think it depends what you call a psychedelic company, right? I think if you're focused on the actual, whether it's psilocybin, like GMP psilocybin, or whether it's a mushroom or what that looks like, or whether it's a supporting or an enabling technology, such as an electronic health record or some sort of insurance rider or something like that. We, WPSS, take more a look at more the FDA track of things. So there's going to be products like in places like Oregon or Colorado, there's definitely going to be companies growing mushrooms and just marketing and selling those out to practitioners to their patients. And I think that's amazing. It's just a business model that it's similar to cannabis. It's like a cash model because it's not federally legal, and it's a whole other ball game that as an investor, we don't want to get into. But we still
that's why I was wondering. I'm like, that seems like a messy space to be in.
Yeah, so it's something we support, like philosophically, but we're unfortunately unable to invest there. And then what we focus on is the companies that are developing, whether it's like first generation psychedelics such as psilocybin or DMT or something like that, where they're not, you can't patent psilocybin. It's a naturally occurring molecule that's been around. Hoffman synthesized
a couple of years.
Yeah, but like you can get patents, let's say, around if you run studies, let's say, on the use of psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, and you invested hundreds of millions of dollars into developing that, then you can get what you call a method of use patent, or you can also get patents around how you give this. So there's different ways to protect your investment, but it's not like. And then there's second and third generation psychedelics where they're actually innovating, like they're basically inspired by psychedelics and the mechanisms of the action behind psychedelics, but they're actually new compounds being developed, and those do have actual patenting on the molecule itself. And those, I would say, are more outsized market because they have a monopoly over like a company developing psilocybin will never be the sole provider of psilocybin, and that's fine. That's how it should be, right? Like, but they can carve out a little piece of the market that hopefully will provide some sort of return for the investors that invested very early on and took on a very high risk. And then the second and third generation, there's like other types of risks. It's molecules that have never been in humans, so they maybe are toxic or not safe, and so they maybe won't get to market, or maybe they're not effective. But if those do get developed all the way through and are shown to be both safe and effective, then the market on those is bigger. It's just a longer time frame, and it's a risk. There's like more clinical
and more uncertain. More uncertain.
So each one has its pros and cons.
Yeah,
and we try to build like a balanced portfolio. Yeah.
Okay, and then you've created a balanced portfolio for your investors. Are there other firms like what you guys have put together? How many people like you are there?
We haven't really met. I mean, there's a few others. There's some that just invest in psychedelics. There's a few others that are in mental health space more broadly, but it's more on the tech side.
I think there would be some tech. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think our unique combination, I think we are the only ones that I know of.
Yeah,
that are combining everything this way.
Yeah, I search a lot of firms or people to interview, and this is the first time I've ever seen anything like what you've got set up. So also that's my own experience. I haven't. I'm sure there's a couple, at least a few, but I haven't found them yet. Yeah. I haven't found them. Can you talk about your clients?
You mean clients as in our company? The companies you invest or our investors?
Yeah, companies. People you've invested in. Like what's your favorite? Like this week, who's your favorite? Startup. Who gave you something news this week or something that you went, oh goodness gracious, we should tell our investors.
So Daniel and I might have different opinions. I think we can both give.
I love it. Yeah. See who's first.
Oh man, there's so many. It's like asking me to choose my favorite kid, right?
People ask me all the time, who's your favorite interview? I've interviewed 300 people. I can't even remember all of them, probably. How can I pick a favorite?
But I guess this week, going to the second part of, I don't know if this is my favorite, but this week we got news from one of our.
This week, that's what I said. This week, somebody's delighted you with a message.
Yeah, so we talked to one of our precision psychiatry companies. That basically, I'll give a brief overview. Most mental health illnesses are now have historically been diagnosed based on a series of symptoms, but no biological markers. So what that means, and that's why some antidepressants work for like third of depressed people, but they won't work on anybody else, because even though the symptoms might be the same, what's actually happening inside the body might be different. So more and more, there's technologies that are trying to solve, and it's a very complex problem to solve just because the brain is so complex. But more and more, there are companies that are trying to solve this problem to better segment patients and be like, you are more likely to respond to this drug versus another patient who's more likely to respond to a different drug. And so this is an area we're very passionate about, because right now when you get diagnosed, it becomes sort of like you become a guinea pig where they try a few things out. If they work or they don't, and there's it's long time frame, and there's a lot of side effects, and so we really want to improve the lives of people suffering from mental illness, and a good way to do it is to be able to do precision medicine or precision psychiatry, and actually get a very precise diagnostic, and you are more likely to diagnose, respond to A drug, B drug, C drug, or no drug, and maybe like talk therapy or TMS or something else. So we're invested in a company that's trying to, using AI, trying to analyze fMRI brain scans in a remote way, and in doing so, help people do exactly this. And it's still very much research. They're trying to validate whether or not their technology works or not. And this week, they told us they have 5 different agreements with academic institutions and companies where they're going to start piloting their technology and start trying to identify different mechanisms of action.
Get the clinical backup.
So I think they're going to develop, just generating a lot of data to actually have a much deeper understanding of how the brain works and what's happening within these disease areas.
I think I've interviewed them.
It's called Serotype. I don't know if you know them. The CEO is
Serotype. I think
Dr. Emily Stearns. Sorry.
I think I've interviewed them. Not her, but I can't. But this is very familiar, because what the concept was that you go to 500 therapists, one person might get 500 different drug recommendations, because they all kind of have their bias, and they start off with a certain formula, and then they get you to the next one and next one, and then they kind of dial it in. Like you said, you're a little guinea piggish, but they were saying that this idea is that it uses AI to map who's, the kind of person, the kind of diagnosis, and then mapping what drugs finally worked, and then bringing that, like you said, the research part. Yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah,
I think that is like so logical.
Yeah.
It's got to work.
So important, right? So important for people.
It's super important. Like, if you can nail my drug dosage pretty closely with the first go, that's a big improvement for people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, young man. What about you? What's your favorite? What's your favorite message you got this week from a darling, one of your 22 girlfriends?
So there's this idea, psychedelics are probably the best antidepressant there is right now. And there's this discussion of what is it about the psychedelics that helps people with their mental health. So there's 2 big ideas.
Yeah.
It could be many of them. One of them is like when you're on a trip, you have this hallucination, and you get some input from what you're thinking, and that could have a therapeutic effect.
This out of body experience. Yeah.
But then there's another theory that what's happening is that there's a window of a lot of neuroplasticity, and that neuroplasticity is like a moment in time where you're able to change your brain a little bit in a way that keeps you away from like repetitive thinking. And something really new in science is the idea that you could modify the psychedelics a little bit and take away the hallucination and just leave that neuroplastic window. So two of our companies are developing molecules, or actually 3 companies, but I spoke with one of them today that are doing that.
It's like CBD. You know, like CBD and marijuana. So THC gets you high, and it's the neurological, the brain part, the head part, and the CBD is the body part.
Yeah, so exactly. It's the idea of being separating.
Yeah, they're breaking. I mean, they start breaking down the compounds, and this does this part does this part does it. I didn't know you could do that for a mushroom. That is crazy.
So but this is theoretical, at least in animals. Okay. And the crazy scientists who are developing say it works this way, but there haven't been any results on human clinical trials. So I mean, maybe later this year, maybe next year, the first ones will start coming, and we'll know for sure if this actually works. So that could be very exciting.
That's interesting. So then what happens when you take this? So you're going to remove the hallucinations, but you're going to keep this kind of thin wall in the brain between reality and like your subconscious?
No, it's I mean, it's theory, but it's the theory is like some people after they take psychedelics, they feel like this afterglow, even though they're not tripping, but they still feel that amazing. So maybe it's just that afterglow without the trip. But we'll see. Okay. I mean, it's if it works or not. I haven't tried it. I would like to. But
that'd be interesting to try. Yeah, because there is a lot of body stuff that goes on. That's interesting. And if you remove the hallucinogenics part of it,
So have you heard this synaptic that they say that like you like with synaptic tuning, like suddenly like you have very specific trains of thought, and like they keep like carving like a sled going through the snow, like every time it keeps going
down, right. The bad, especially the bad stuff.
Yeah, I mean everything, but when you're in a depressed or anxious state, it's the bad stuff.
Okay.
And psychedelics break that up and just like create, like allow you to create new pathways. So what these drugs are doing is like breaking that up and allowing you to create these new pathways, but without
the side effect. Without
that side effect. I don't know if I would call hallucination a side effect. It might be positive thing, but without the hallucination.
Might be the main effect, It might be the main effect, Everything else might be accidental.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it is. I mean, it's marvelous and wonderment to think that all these things are sitting here on Earth. Something like this that can actually repair the brain. Is sitting here on Earth. I love the story of the, the red and white mushroom.
Yeah,
I forget what you call that.
Amanita muscaria.
The whole story of that, being that the reindeers fly and, the shamans came down through the chimneys to deliver, and Christmas is red and white because, well, reindeers, when they eat mushrooms, they fly.
Yeah.
What a fantastic story to find out that Christmas is actually a story about mushrooms. I mean, who the hell, like, what else would Santa Claus, reindeer flying and delivering presents? You'd have to be unhappy.
But, like, isn't most of the Bible, like, right, like Moses talking to the bush and the bush being God? Like, I feel like you read the Bible and it's just a lot of hallucinations, right?
And then we parted the Red Sea. Because of course you did.
And then he got a message from God with the 10 Commandments, and like, I mean, it sounds a little hallucinatory.
It sounds pretty. I've been to a few Dead shows, and I swear to God, that stuff is real. Like, I've been to Grateful Dead shows where we take mushrooms, and for sure, I've seen a few religions started at a Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah.
That It's interesting. You're right, though. There is, and the way it's written is so clever. The only way you could do that is over many years, passing the tradition and keeping on the mushrooms. Very interesting. How did you guys end up? Let's come back to the personal journey, Sonia. What's your, I think I can share the part that you dragged your brother into it, and maybe you can. And it seems like he's pretty happy with the destination.
Totally.
How did it start for you?
Yeah, so I used to suffer from depression. Probably most of my life, it was mild depression, and then at some point, life happened and it aggravated. And I went the typical route, therapy, SSRI. They wanted to put me on
Right.
SSRIs, and the more I researched on SSRIs, I didn't like what I was hearing. And Daniel and I guess we had the fortune that our grandmother, who we'd never met, but who also suffered from depression, had done psychedelic assisted therapy with Salvador Roquet in Mexico in the 70s. So we knew about it. It was still a taboo. Like, even though that happened, it was still a taboo because of the war on drugs and everything. But
Yeah.
we knew about it. And so when I was going through this journey, I decided to try psychedelics to treat my depression. And I mean, as all the stories go, they worked, they were amazing. And afterwards, I was a little obsessed with them, and it coincided with me moving to New York. So I would like go to any underground event, anything psychedelic related, just meet anybody doing anything in psychedelics, because I was just a little obsessed with what I had lived. And this led
That's
me to meeting a
powerful.
lot of like, yeah, they're incredibly powerful experiences.
Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and this led me to meet a lot of the people in this space, including meeting the Thai founders and the Compass founders and Rick Doblin from MAPS, and just a lot of people. And at some point, I was offered the opportunity to invest in Compass when it was still a very early startup. And I went to Daniel and I was like, look at this. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I tried psychedelics once in Amsterdam, and it was the best day of my life. We have to do something like in this space. And and we, but he was like, but we have to come out of the closet to our family, right? So he had the brilliant
come out of the
idea
closet.
of buying like shroom chocolates, and taking them to Yom Kippur lunch and just distributing them to our whole family. And that's how we came out of the closet, and we're like, we want to do this thing where we want to
have a
invest.
piece of chocolate.
Yeah. So that's sort of what happened, and yeah, that's how we ended up where we are.
That is why. Yeah, as I mentioned, so many people have got a personal story. How close were you guys before this? I mean, why call your brother? Are you guys super close?
Yeah.
Or was this something you just knew that he would
No,
be like, oh, he's got my. Okay.
Yeah, my brother's always got my back.
I guess no one else would have
so-
decided to like invest in something like that as well.
Yeah, she's also thinking. Yeah, she's like, who else is going to follow me down this crazy idea? Call my bro.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. Like I said, the fact that you're doing the investment side of this is very interesting to me, because it's super risky. You've got these crazy, super passionate people that are in the space, usually for reasons of their own volition, right? They've been pushed and they've been, somehow recruited by the universe to be in the space, and they're in there, and it just feels like that. Everybody I talk to is really passionate about what they're doing and recognizes the crisis and is trying to do their best. And I just think it's amazing. That's the best hope. This is a global thing. And I just did an interview when I was, when I sent you the message. I just finished an interview with somebody who's in she's in a tough space. The last question for the show, I asked her this question just because I had the vibe. I was asking her, do you love yourself? And, this is a very confident woman. She's 53. She got kids. I mean, the last thing you would expect someone is to stumble. And she really stumbled. And, we turned off the mic. she kind of told me, like, I couldn't say everything on here, but I'm in a relationship with somebody who's a narcissist, has been arrested, or I'm trying to get out. I'm in a dangerous situation. And she's like, my mental health is at the worst it's ever been, because of my own choices, and now reflecting on my choices, and I got my kids involved. So my self view is not good. And, this is someone who's, trauma from childhood and everything else. So it's tough, man, to see and to really sit after I got to know her for an hour and a half on the interview, but this part never came out because she couldn't talk about it. And you think of all the people struggling in different situations, relationship, but the mental health part is the underlying tough part. Got a big crisis on our hands.
Yeah, but hopefully
big crisis.
Hopefully we'll move the needle in a different direction.
I think we can. Like the people I'm meeting and all the energy and the solutions in the space, it's great. Why can't we just give everybody a few mushrooms and I think that would sort a lot of people out. I think the CIA had a good idea. Just give it to everybody. They don't even have to know what's happening. Tell them later.
Yeah. Definitely. I
Maybe
mean, setting
Maybe
is
not.
definitely important in harm reduction. I mean, I do think this around it, like, not for everybody. I think some people have transcendental trips and don't need anything, but setting
Yes.
are definitely important.
Absolutely. I kind of crack up with that too, because I did interview somebody who's in the space doing the trips, kind of like a tour. I call them like a tour guide. They're helping people set up the intention, meet with, and have a therapist there during the trip. And they're doing heavy doses to get that therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was 16, we put mushrooms on a pizza and then went to a party. That was our I still remember that one. Frozen pizza, sprinkled a bag of mushrooms on there. We all ate a few slices. He might have got 3 grams. I might have got 2. Not really sure. Everybody had a great time. Somebody might have got naked, like stuff happened, but I'm okay. I think, and I'm lucky. As a young kid, I was exposed to psilocybin, different forms, acid, mushrooms, and very casual, with no intention but to have a good time. But it definitely did give me, I think, an awareness. Probably healed my brain a bit from some childhood, traumas. Even probably. Injuries to my brain, playing football and everything else probably helped me out a bit. I'm sure it repaired some damage, but it definitely helped give me the tools. It gives you that awareness and that there's something more out there, that it's not just what you physically see and touch. Life in the universe is more than what we see and feel. You're on a great path. I really love what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. How about any closing thoughts? We're kind of at the end, and I usually kind of leave an opportunity for you guys to, you have a message or just just a shout out how to get involved and how to find you guys. I got put the banner back up. If you're listening on a audio podcast, it's wpss.bio, and you can find out a lot more about the firm. The website's pretty cool. I checked that out. It looks great. So how about some closing thoughts? Any messages, how they find you, how to help, all that good stuff.
So I guess if you're interested in learning more, reach out through the webpage. You can there's links to our LinkedIn, so you can find us there and we'll answer those questions. And I mean, we're always interested in meeting people with interesting ideas, wanting to make change and actually help improve the quality of people's lives. So always happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'll when you got another bag of investment funds, send me a note and I'll poke back through my interviewees, because I've got about 70 interviews done already, and there's probably a few in there you haven't. Yeah, probably a few in there you haven't met yet.
Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to. We'd love to talk to them.
Daniel, any kind of parting thoughts?
No, I mean, it's mental health is something that should concern everyone, and there's many ways to get involved. You could do it as we're doing it in the private way, but there's a lot of like also foundations and NGOs, and which we've also participated a little bit, and also like if you want to reach out and learn about those, we would also be like happy to send you in the right direction.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Sonya, for being guests. Really interesting. Like I said, love what you're doing, and I love where you're coming from on it too. Such a holistic approach. Gonna follow your story. Gonna follow the story, and I'm sure we'll come. I'm sure I'll come across some of your clients. I'll come back to you at one point and kind of poke you for some intros to some of your other. Be good to get the companies you're invested in, get them on here to kind of share what they're doing.
Definitely.
That's a great spot. So hang around a bit, and I'm going to run in one more commercial, and we'll just chit chat a little bit on the backside. It's a good reminder. Thanks everybody for listening and supporting the Mental Health Today show. Also, we're looking for sponsors to keep this going, to do a little more advertising for it so more people can kind of find out, again, what are people doing in the space to kind of help stop the mental health crisis. Thanks again, Daniel. Thanks again, Sonya. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This show will be aired on the audio platforms in about 2 weeks. So we'll have that as well. And it's also live on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook now. Thanks, guys. Hang around. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Mirror, eye to eye with a man.